Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined today by Lawrence Jackson and Kyle Dvorchak. We'll be talking the fallout from a snoozer on Monday night game if you managed to stay up the whole time, and then getting into some of the players we are having the most difficulty ranking this week. Both Lawrence and Kyle also rank for Rotoworld, with their rankings available every Thursday at noon in our Season Pass tool. My rankings will be going live in the Season Pass tool on Tuesday afternoons, and then the free ranks going live on the site Thursday morning. But yeah, last week, Lawrence and I, Kyle, when you weren't here, we had a barn burner of a Monday night doubleheader to talk about. Today, I mean, we could rank our top 10 Daniel Jones sacks from Monday night. Do we have takeaways from this game? I mean, I wanted to tweet at some point last night, like if Cooper Rush had like a few good series in a row, I wanted to tweet something like Dak Prescott down bad, but I don't think so.
I mean, Rush is 3-0 as a starter. His career numbers are like okay. I mean,
he's fine.
He's fine. Yeah, he's more fine than I expected, honestly.
Before we get to you, Lawrence, Kyle, is Cooper Rush better than Geno Smith?
I don't know. I mean, keeping it in this particular game, I was gonna say I actually ran a poll after the last night's game that said, who would you want at quarterback the rest of the season, Cooper Rush or Daniel Jones?
Oh boy.
Out of 200 people, 70% of those people chose Cooper Rush.
Come on, guys.
Dude, Cooper Rush isn't making mistakes. He's not. I think he has one interception. No, he has no interceptions on the year. He's got a super low sack rate. Whereas Daniel Jones, the only thing he can do is throw 5-yard completions. And when he isn't throwing those completions, it's not because he didn't make the throw. It's because he got sacked before he ever got the chance. Like, man, the sacks for him are brutal. He is like he is a 0 out of 10 Madden rating of like 12 out of 100 pocket presence type of rating. It's unreal.
Look, Cooper Rush was pushing the ball downfield. If CeeDee Lamb don't drop one, we talking about another Cooper Rush touchdown here. I mean, hey, I don't know.
That's true. And Kyle, you talk about the sacks for Daniel Jones. You know, we debate how much are sacks like a quarterback stat. We know they're at least somewhat of a quarterback stat. And there was a really good tweet last night from Jacob Sanderson, who's a really good follow on Twitter at FF_RTDB. And he tweeted, like after like the 19th Daniel Jones sack, he tweeted, has Daniel Jones ever just taken a 5-step drop and released the ball? Because I don't think he has. He never ever just goes back, makes a read and throws the ball. Like goes back, like kind of like camps out and then like can never decide what to do and then gets sacked half the time. And do we feel like, so clearly this line is bad, like Evan Neal, kind of a rough night for the young man. But so this line is bad, but I mean, Daniel Jones is definitely contributing to this, is he not?
Yeah, I mean, don't say that to no Giants fans, because Giants fans was fighting for their life on Twitter. Like, hey, this line, I'm like, I'm gonna stay out your way. I'm gonna just get me a good night's sleep here. I'll let y'all do y'all thing. Don't tell them that, because Daniel Jones is their Lord and Savior out there, man. Like, he can do no wrong, when in fact he doing a lot of not a lot of great things. But hey, man, everybody contributed to that loss last night except Saquon Barkley, because that's the real Lord and Savior out here.
Saquon is he's doing his best to save me in a few season-long leagues already. And it's not like Daniel Jones has a great receiving supporting cat, well, especially because of all the injuries. Kadarius Toney just doesn't play football, and Sterling Shepard with one of the crazier non-contact injuries I've ever seen in my life. Like he's basically just jogging, and you feel so bad for him. So it's gonna be even tougher now for Daniel Jones. But we're not seeing the next step here, are we? Like it's just like I don't think, Kyle, do you think the Giants are regretting turning down his 5th-year team option right now? No, right? So Kyle, you're muted, by the way. And Kyle, so Lawrence said Giants fans are out here fighting for their life. I've been dealing with the same thing with Seahawks fans for 2 days after I tweeted that Geno Smith was not playing well. And dozens of Seahawks fans, not even exaggerating, have been tweeting at me, like very taking umbrage with the tweet. And Kyle, I love pointless comparisons. Would you rather have Geno Smith or Cooper Rush as your starting quarterback rest of the season?
Cooper Rush? This one's tough.
That one is closer than Cooper Rush and Daniel Jones.
Geno Smith has been hitting his layups. Like, he is, like, right now, I think the highest quarterback in completion percent over expected. But it shows how gimmicky it is when you look at his advanced stats, or even like more simple stats like yards per completion, yards per attempt, where he's not really doing anything other than getting the layups. Whereas, like, you know, he's not making egregious mistakes, but he gives you zero above replacement. There's nothing you see when you watch him play.
Exactly.
And it makes you feel hope if you're down by more than 8. If there is a 1 possession gap, you're like, well, that's the ball game right there. So
exactly, I feel like Geno Smith goes. Thank you, Cooper Rush is the right answer. I think Geno Smith goes to basketball practice and he starts with the layup line and then just stays in the layup line the entire time and doesn't practice anything else. And just every deep ball is underthrown, and every intermediate ball turns into a potential hospital ball. Like, I'm very surprised I have Seahawks fans caped up.
I mean, whatever he doing. I mean, Tyler Lockett doing pretty well from a fantasy perspective.
18 receptions the past 2 weeks for Tyler Lockett.
DK Metcalf got in the end zone. I know me and Kyle have talked a lot about DK Metcalf, and me just hoping that talent shine through. For this particular game, it did. I don't know how consistent that's going to be going forward. But we knew it was going to be a tough situation for them Seahawks. And it's starting to show right now because, you know, the Falcons finally didn't find a way to lose a game. So if you can't keep the Falcons from doing that, then something is wrong.
Yeah, DK Metcalf did have the touchdown. He almost had a second touchdown Sunday. He couldn't get both. He couldn't get either foot in bounds, actually. I was going to say he couldn't get both feet. He didn't get either foot and bounds on his second potential touchdown. I have no idea why I brought up Geno Smith and the Seahawks. I'm just trying to tell me people are
because them Seahawks fans was getting at you.
So I'm in a Twitter flame war, and I just want you guys to tell me that I'm right.
Yeah, they're living rent free in your little brain right now.
They are quite rent free in my head right now. Final thought on Monday Night Football: the guy who painted his head blue.
Man,
me.
We've seen that's a good point, Kyle. We've seen some down bad fans in our time, but the all blue head Giants fan after the game was clearly over last night. That guy was definitely contemplating like how he got here.
Yeah, what make it even better is just his facial expression, because he could have been on two different sides of the spectrum. He could have been that dude with the blue face paint, who the rah-rah guy like Fireman Ed from the Jets back in the day, but he was just like, you could see the whole Giants season and what it's going to be just by looking at that man's face.
Yeah.
He was having Vietnam flashbacks reflect off of his pupils. It was not good.
Yeah, he had his Giants life flashing before his eyes. So.
Right.
Let's hope there aren't any Giants games in primetime anytime soon again, but we know that there will be because everyone watches when they're on. So it's a real shame. But time to get on to the players we're having trouble ranking. And I feel like some of these guys are going to end up like a theme, Lawrence. I don't think, though, that we talked about Kyler Murray last week. And you said he's a quarterback you're having trouble ranking, and I can't imagine why. 58 attempts and 0 touchdowns last week. What in the world do we do with Kyler? Because my initial week 4 ranks, I've still got him ranked as like a mid-range, almost high-end QB1.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What in the world should we be thinking of Kyler Murray?
I mean, right now, just on the strength and you knowing what his potential is, like he is quarterback 9 in fantasy right now. So that's where I have him ranked.
That's crazy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's still a quarterback 1, but we feel like he should be in the upper echelon of quarterback 1s. Why? Mainly because he has that rushing ability. The problem with that is he's only got 65 rushing yards through these 3 weeks, and that is very troubling. You add into the fact that the team can't score. The times that they have scored, it's coming from behind. Week 1 in the Chiefs, garbage touchdowns. Week 2 versus the Raiders, they were down 20, down bad. They had to come back. And then we get to week 3, and like you said, the 58 pass attempts can't get this guy any touchdowns. Like, yeah, we love the 300 passing yards, but I don't love those 8 rushing yards. Like, come on, baby, I need some more of that. So that's what has me, that's what's giving me trouble as far as ranking him this week. So, like I said, he's QB9 on the season, and it's not great. So that's the good thing, I guess. But that's where I got him right now. But I'm having trouble when you got guys like, it's crazy, but Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence coming up and being a better player, so that's what leaves me puzzled.
Well, yeah, Lawrence, before we get to Kyle and Kyler Murray, that is the problem. It's Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts are like in a tier by themselves at the top, and then it's everyone else has crazy question marks. Justin Herbert is hurt. Joe Burrow is taking more sacks than ever. Patrick Mahomes, the new supporting cast, doesn't seem to be gelling. Tua has had the spiked week, but then he only has 18 attempts in week 3. That was because of weird game flow, not because of anything.
Yeah, real weird. Actually,
or Mike McDaniel did, but one huge game, then 2 1-touchdown games. Kirk Cousins, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Jameis Winston, Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff. It's like, where do you rank any of these guys? And so, yeah, Kyle, I'd be like, where do you slot Kyler Murray in? Because I just feel like there's nothing. I feel like you have the top 3. You could probably still slot Justin Herbert in as the top number 4. And then it's like, I barely even know what to do.
Yeah. I throw Mahomes in there in that sort of tier 2 of like any
for sure
should pop in, but like it is Allen, Jackson, and Hurts, and then a tier break. And then I think a few more like very good quarterbacks. Maybe it's just like Herbert and Mahomes in that
I think Herbert and Mahomes are the second tier, and then another tier break probably.
Yeah, and I can't, unless you give that tier just like 15 guys, I'm not even sure Murray's in the next tier, because he's just playing. I mean, he's playing poorly because I think partially he has really no receivers to work with. Partially his coach is designing an offense that is sort of intentionally designed to make offense bad.
Is he designing an offense? It doesn't really seem like he's designing anything.
It's not great, but also he's played not particularly well. He's 23rd in EPA per play. He is 25th in completion rate over expected. And the thing that we used to be able to hang our hat on was that, he's just going to run the ball. Things go poorly, if anything, if he's getting pressured or if he just feels the need to make plays, he'll just break the pocket and run for 50 yards in a game. And like Lauren said, we have not seen any of that. He's averaging 22 yards on 3 carries a game. That's almost nothing. It's what we expect from like Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, these like mostly pocket passers, but have the athleticism to make a move or two, those types of players. So if he's not going to be passing well, he's not passing deep at all. So his passing yardage can only be fueled by the 59 attempt type of games. Actually, I probably even want to have him as a QB1 this week. I had him written up. It's funny Lawrence brought him up. I had him written up for the 32 stats article as a pretty pessimistic on where things are right now.
Well, it's what you guys mentioned, the rushing stats as being disappointing. And what is most troubling to me about Kyler Murray only having 65 rushing yards through 3 games is that he's fully healthy right now. And what we've seen from Kyler in the past is that when he's healthy, he'll provide rushing production. When he's not healthy, he stops running. Either it was to protect his ankle at one point, it was to protect his shoulder at one point. And the fact that he's not rushing, even when he's healthy, and even when they don't have like any passing threats. Now, 3 of 3 games where he's finished with the yards per attempt below 6, too. So that definitely lends credence to maybe being more pessimistic, like Kyle said. I think I do agree with Lawrence. I'm still going to keep him in like that QB 8 to 10 range, just because we have 3-year sample size of Kyler Murray being a high end fantasy QB1. Having a hard time believing it's just like totally over. But man, maybe the environment is just too bad.
Definitely not over. And look, on the bright side, week 1, 34 pass attempts. That was by far his low so far. Week 2, he threw it 49 times. In week 3, he threw it 58. So
yeah, we like the way that's trending.
If you keep that up,
we get him to 80 attempts. Maybe we'll get a top 8 day finally.
He plays the Panthers this week in what can only be described as like a potential miserable game. The Panthers offense is going to give no pushback. They're going to give no reason for Kyler Murray to try and push the field in comeback mode. This game looks like it's like a 17-13 affair. The Panthers like the only team in the NFL who hasn't gone over 300 total yards in the game this year. That it's just there's no reason for this game to be exciting. So even if things turn around in terms of the win-loss column for Kyler Murray, it's not like it's really going to be the result of an offensive explosion in my mind. So this week particular doesn't look like a particularly exciting chance to get back on him. The week after that, he gets Philly. That should be a very good game. And that one I'd be comfortable ranking him as high as like QB6, ignoring what could happen this upcoming week.
Yeah, but the Panthers, by the way, are like barely allowing like 6 yards per attempt. Like they're actually playing kind of good defense.
The defense is hanging on there. It's really the only reason they're not like a bottom tier like team we talk about as like fighting for the 101.
Just real quick before we move on to running back. I mean, I have Tua ranked right now as the QB7 for this week. Is this Like, what is this a bad decision? Is this a good decision? I honestly don't know.
I got him at QB7 right now too, right ahead of Joe Burrow at 8.
I have him one spot behind Joe Burrow. Actually, I don't know what I'm doing right now.
Yeah,
I'm just scared.
No, that's I mean, that game is.
It's the Bengals and Dolphins. We're expecting a shootout, correct? Right.
47 total is pretty high on the week.
Only 47, really?
Yeah,
I mean, 47 is the 4th or 5th highest of the week.
You got the Falcons and Browns at 49.5.
That is blowing my mind. I'm looking. I don't know about that.
How is Dolphins Bengals only 47? I'm actually shocked by that.
I mean, I think to me, honestly, it's probably a product of the Bengals not really looking like themselves, despite spending a lot on the offensive line. Joe Burrow just continues to walk into these sacks, and even though we've gotten good performances from Chase and Higgins, we haven't been getting the Chase catches a 20-yard pass, breaks 9 tackles and goes 80. T. Higgins mosses someone 60 yards downfield. That's part of the reason we're seeing, fat regression from Joe Burrow is the mistakes have not changed. It's if anything, it's getting worse maybe, but really let's just say it's neutral. He's the guy who takes a lot of sacks, but he hasn't made the big plays to make up for it. So the offense looks, they're not bad, right? But they're not nearly as fun as they were last year.
I mean, I was thinking like 52-5 or something for Bengals, and I guess it is Thursday night. That's probably actually playing a part in depressing it, maybe. But wow, all right. Well, yeah, Tua, I'm ranking him as a QB. I mean, he's had averaging almost 10 yards per attempt per game. That's kind of a bet on just how well designed the offense has been, more than anything else for Tua.
We're not gonna get Tua no credit here.
No. I'm just saying. Tua has been playing super well. But he's only had the
within
stats.
the confines of the offense that's designed.
No. But my point he's only had the stats so far in 1 of 3 games, but the offense was still humming in the other 2-3 games. Just didn't translate to the box score. So I'm betting the well-designed offense and Tua executing it quite well.
I would actually say to your point, actually, Pat. I would say that Tua played better than Josh Allen in that game.
He did. Josh Allen tried to throw like 6 interceptions.
The thing with the Bills and why Josh Allen kept, his top 3 quarterback ranking, they played a lot of plays.
90 to 39 was the play disparity, Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, man, I would hope to, everything that the Dolphins play more than 39 plays
would be nice.
versus the Bengals, or we could be looking at another low week for Tua. But like you, I do have him at 7, and earlier today I was kind of, that was almost going to be the guy I wanted to talk about because I did see the 47 over under, and I was thinking like, damn, well, is this the Dolphins or is this the Bengals? And then I'm thinking like, maybe it's the Bengals because they did get going, but it was versus the Jets. They haven't been running the ball well, the Bengals, and neither have the Dolphins up until this game versus the Bills. So I definitely feel you on settling in on him right there at that spot because it's just the way they've been playing. It's hard to see him. It's hard to rank him much lower than that.
Yeah. It's just betting on how the player has looked and how the offense just seems to be one of the best design we have going, right? And a lot of really poorly designed offenses this year, including the Bengals, actually. So, Kyle, we'll move on to running back. And you could say almost any player. I feel like you're having trouble ranking at running back so far. really, really beginning after like the top 5 or 6. But who do you want to talk about?
I'll talk about Damien Pierce because it looked like we were on pace for an explosion last week. He was getting all the carries, running well. But then the offense kind of gets bottled up with a handful of 3-and-outs, some Davis Mills poor plays, and Damien Pierce fumbles. He, I believe, lost 1 fumble. I believe he also had a fumble in the red zone that was recovered by his own team. And we're still seeing Rex Burkhead used in the passing game. So all we've got for Damien Pierce is this between the tackles player who's done well so far, but he's running at 4 yards per carry. He isn't like explosive in a way that you can't imagine how they don't get him 25 to 30 carries a game. And he plays for a team that we expect to continually be losing games. I mean, so far they don't have a win. They do have a tie over the Colts.
But this week,
that's still not a win, to be very clear. And the Colts, man, do not look like a team you want to be tying against, right? They have, I don't know, they did beat the Chiefs though, but it was an ugly win. So anyway, point being, for a team with a fairly low implied team total facing a Chargers squad that, Justin Herbert looked fine, good enough, he made one beautiful throw last week. So he looks like he can play through the injury. It might not be enjoyable for him. But anyways, Texans 5-point dogs with a team total below 20. He's a between the tackles banger. I don't know what to do with that, right? Because he also looks good in that role and he is getting every single carry. But it's like, how do you rank these like Josh Jacobs, these Damien Harris types where you're just betting on them falling into the end zone? I want to bet on Pierce's talent, right? He looks like a good back and they're treating him as such. But the fumbles last week for a coach like Lovie Smith, who's shown like a very up and down relationship with Damien Pierce. First week, iced him out for Rex Burkhead, talks him up, gives him a ton of work the next week, talks him up, gives him a ton of work the next week again, and was kind of punished for it this week with the fumbles.
Well, before Lawrence, I'll ask you your thoughts on Damien Pierce, but Kyle, I thought you made a good point where you've got him in the right tier. Right? I have him one spot ahead of Josh Jacobs. So I have him as the RB22 in my initial rankings. This could change, but I have him one spot ahead of Josh Jacobs, 3 spots of Damien Harris. Like definitely the kind of company he's keeping is like an early down banger, but I'm giving him the advantage over those two just because with Josh Jacobs, I still don't know if Josh McDaniels even wants to use Josh Jacobs. Where I do think the Texans, in theory, want to use their running game. Hopefully the fumbles don't change that, like you said. And then Damien Harris, just don't know how it's going to unfold with Ramondre Stevenson without Mac Jones. So I think you've got him grouped with the right players. I do have him at the head of that group. Sure. Lawrence, whereabouts do you have Damien Pierce?
Yeah, so Damien Pierce is, for me personally, this is a guy you just kind of try to play the matchups and, decide whether or not you want to throw him in the flex. Last week in my Optimal Flex article, I brought up Damien Pierce's going against the Bears. There's a low over-under. Both teams will have low passing value. All right, so that happened. Damien Pierce ended up scoring. Now we're here. Now we're playing the Chargers. You're minus 4.5 and the over-under is 45. So I think Kyle alluded to it earlier, expecting them to be behind and Damien Pierce still not getting that work in the passing game. That's worrisome. So this definitely would be, confusing to me too. I currently got him in the mid-20s for this week. And going just a little bit further as far as, in redraft, I would actually recommend seeing what's out there as far as a trade, like try to trade him off and, get something for that 20 carry, 80 yard, 1 touchdown game and maybe somebody hurting for a running back or something. Because week in, week out, I feel like it's going to be like whatever matchup, looks good on paper and then you throw him in. But Damien Pierce probably going to be a dude until he gets the passing role. We'll be, confused about where to rank him every single week.
Lawrence, I'm just ashamed of you. We don't ever trade our hype beasts. Yeah, you don't ever sell high on the players we've been hyping. No, it's actually a pretty interesting case you just made there. And I mean, it's probably not the best, probably not the worst idea. So Lawrence, Damien Pierce, we're talking about he's in the RB2 flex. You want to talk about someone more like the high end range. Very, very confusing situation for week 4 with the back that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, definitely Dalvin Cook. And this is the guy I had coming into the season as being the top running back in fantasy. So as far as real football is concerned, 2 of the 3 games he's run for over 90 yards, that's pretty good. That's in the Vikings 2 wins. He's done that. But now he's got the shoulder issue popping up again. And pretty much why I'm, puzzled on where to rank him is for that reason, is the shoulder. Will he play or will he not? Well, if he doesn't play, it becomes much easier where to rank him. You unrank him. You know what I'm saying?
But no, hold on. Hey, man, I might still rank him even if he doesn't play. You never know. Yeah, sorry.
You're right.
Now, it was not worth interjecting to make that joke.
Now, if he does play, now it's like, a lot of running backs get in this situation, especially when they dealing with something like soft tissue injuries. They play him, and then it's like, man, do I bench this guy and then he go off, or then when I put him in, he score 2 points and come out in the first quarter. We hope not to deal with that situation, and that's why it's making it puzzling to rank him. So right now I have him at running back 15 just to be, safe. Like, if he plays, is he going to be in a 50-50 split with Alexander Mattison? We know that's not the case when he's healthy, but he's not right now. Now, he's played through this situation in the past. He's even ran a 200-yard game last season with the hurt shoulder and the harness that he's talking about wearing for this week. So a lot of factors going on with this because of his injury that he sustained in week 3. So now we got to see where we all rank him.
Yeah, Lawrence,
this could be like a basketball player mask narrative. Whenever a basketball player dons the actual like mask, they become a superhero and they go out and go nuts. We could have the Dalvin Cook shoulder harness narrative, because I was trying to think of when he played through that shoulder last time, and I didn't know it was the game he went off for.
It was, but Denny and I talked about Monday. It was after he missed a game. He missed a game, then he came back with a harness.
So he should go for even more.
Yeah, so they're saying this year, like, since he's used to it, he's just going to play with the harness immediately. But also, Denny and I talked about there's going to be a pretty big tell because they're going to London. They might be departing today. And if Dalvin Cook makes the flight, you're probably not flying the guy to London if you think he's not going to play in the game.
That's true.
So if he makes the flight, I'm kind of expecting like a normal Dalvin Cook type of game and workload. And if he doesn't make the flight, probably not going to rank him. It's like, I doubt he's going to be flying to London on Friday or Saturday.
He ain't going to take the red eye to get to London.
No, he's not. So, yeah, not taking the – especially – they've been having – this is getting way too nerdy, but they've been having, like, flight chaos at Heathrow Airport. So, yeah, I don't think they're going to try to sneak him in over the weekend. But before we get out of the running backs, Cordarrelle Patterson is a guy that I just feel like I don't know. He's had 2 really big games. One game where he tied with Tyler Algier in carries. The big games are still like, so he had 25 carries week 1. He had this huge game against the bad Seahawks defense this weekend that only came on 17 carries. Like, the Seahawks are just bleeding yardage, like yards per run, yards per reception, and yards per drive. Like, they're horrible in basically every metric. The Browns, it's going to be a different story. I mean, the over-under, though. I did not realize this over-under would be so high, Kyle. So, Kyle, your eyes light up.
That makes you think a little bit.
Are we chasing points with Cordarrelle Patterson this week, Kyle?
Yeah, I think he's like a good candidate to be at the top of the like Damien Pierce style rankings, because pretty much everything we've seen from him so far is right now healthy and getting the bulk of the work. He's been electric on the workload that I would have said would have been bad for him. Frankly, he's got back-to-back games with a combined 1 catch, 1 target in each. Didn't catch it 2 weeks ago. Only has 28 receiving yards. And if you just told me that stat line through 3 weeks, I don't have much Patterson in best ball, and I would have been like, oh man, I am cruising. Patterson must be absolute dust. And instead, he's doing the thing where he just keeps breaking long runs because he is that type of player, and they're loading him up with carries now in an attempt to continue breaking him open, and it's working. So honestly, I actually think he's like a strong candidate to lead the Harris. I think Miles Sanders kind of is in this group. Josh Jacobs. I think I'll probably have him ranked at the top of that because we're not seeing him play the fun receiving role. It just hasn't mattered.
Yeah, I don't know if they're needing him as much in the past game because of the emergence of Drake London and what they're getting from him now. Like, just on the strength, like Cordarrelle Patterson, as far as just like straight up talent, is extremely good at running the football.
He is, man. He was really putting that on display against the Seahawks.
I think what NFL teams should start doing is drafting running backs in the 5th round, making them kick returners for 5-6 years, and then making them workhorse running backs, and just to see
develop that vision on the kicks, and then
just to see what happened.
Dude, best running backs are kick returners. There's no doubt about that. Like David Johnson as a peak he started as a really good kick returner.
I mean,
it's a special talent.
Yeah, I like 141 rushing yards against any team. I'll take that against any squad. Like, he was chopping them up. But yeah, again, right now he's a top 5 fantasy running back. I'm not going to rank him top 5 this week versus the Browns. I wouldn't do it versus anybody, but then again, we'll watch him end up getting another 100 yards and doing it again. This is even harder to rank than Damien Pierce, because you should feel like you should be ranking him as a top 15 running back because that's the production he's providing. But what we do, and I'm doing it too, is we keep waiting for him to fall off because he's 31 years old, but he doesn't. What's even more confusing about this, like Kyle said, he's not getting any receiving work when, he came into the NFL as a receiver, so he's not getting that either. So it's just like, what do we do with this dude? I mean, just on volume alone and opportunity, I got him at running back 16 right now.
Yeah.
What do you do?
This is why we're talking about him. So such a wide range of potential outcomes. I have him as the RB24, which frankly feels
I'd put him higher than that.
A little low, but I just feel like we don't have a firm grip on the usage because he split carries with Tyler Algier in week 2. That was really weird. He's facing a Browns. Yeah. By the way, producer Adam says the line started, or the over-under started at 46 in this game and steamed up to 49 and a half.
Maybe an extension of what Kyle Pitts did in week 3. Maybe we actually get that deep ball touchdown. Maybe Marcus Mariota actually hits that pass. I don't know.
But see, Pat, he's facing a Browns defense that contained Christian McCaffrey in week 1, totally shut down Najee Harris in week 3. I mean, that's maybe more about the Steelers.
Yeah, it's not that hard to do, frankly.
Come on,
man.
Yeah,
it's going to definitely be a little more tough sledding for Cordarrelle Patterson this week. And I just know you have to get him the ball. Like,
you do.
You got to get, like, there's Kyle Pitts, of course. And now there's Drake London, but you got, like, this dude has been the Falcons offense since he walked through the doors in 2021, like, which is still crazy to me. I'm still blown away by this whole thing. But like you say, Pat, the week 2 performance versus the Rams, you got to take that into consideration too. And so we've saw a big week 1, a bad week 2, and then another big week in week 3. So is this like a pattern? Do we get the bad week again? That's what makes it tough.
It could be matchup based, and I just didn't think it was a great matchup, but apparently Vegas thinks it's a great matchup for scoring points. So.
Well, they might think it's a great matchup for Nick Chubb, and they're correct.
They do. Yeah, Nick Chubb looking like a top 5 or 6 back this week.
He run against anybody.
We'll be
Let alone the Falcons.
We'll be right back after this to talk receivers. Just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, to go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in college football, Major League Baseball, on the NASCAR circuit, and in the Premier League. There's also $100,000 up for grabs by guessing the outcome between the Chiefs and Buccaneers in our Sunday Night 7 contest. And don't forget to check out Matthew Berry's new show, Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry. The legendary fantasy football analyst is back with NBC and Rotoworld, doing what he does best, rolling out his love-hate list, breaking down who to start and sit, and so much more. There'll also be actionable information along the way for you sports bettors. Check it out weekdays at noon on Peacock, or listen to the show in podcast form wherever you download and subscribe. Lawrence, by the way, you killed it on the Matthew Berry Fantasy Football Happy Hour on Monday. You're muted, Lawrence.
Oh man, appreciate it. I was telling them yesterday that I went to the bathroom before the show and start singing Eminem "Lose Yourself" in my head. And, just can't be dripping mom spaghettis all over my hands and palms are sweaty. I couldn't.
In person, I think the Zoomers would say hits different.
It
having to do something in person versus over the StreamYard or the Zoom.
It definitely does, man.
Well, you and Crane did amazing, and so did Connor. Really, really good show Monday. Really, really good guests you had. Really, really good receivers we're going to be talking about here, because, Lawrence, you don't know where to rank Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
I feel like the whole receiver position is just like this right now. What is the Jamar Chase lay of the land?
Yeah, so, and it's not even – we're not going to be too mad at Jamar Chase for being wide receiver 13 early in the season. The thing about that's bolstered by that week 1 big game that he had versus the Steelers, in which T. Higgins left that game early. That enabled Jamar Chase to just be, straight up like the man. However, the last 2 games, Higgins, 17 targets, 11 catches, 164 yards, and a TD, compared to Jamar Chase, 19 targets, the same 11 catches, but only 88 yards in the touchdown. So I already had Higgins, coming into this season, ranked a little higher than Jamar Chase because Joe Burrow does not favor either one of these guys. But when you look at the box score versus the Jets and you see, that Joe Burrow threw for 275 and, 3 touchdowns, Jamar Chase had a touchdown and 10 targets, you would think he went off. He had 6 catches for 29 yards in that game. So that's leaving me, and now they get an actual test versus the Dolphins, who played great defense against the Bills, especially down the stretch. Now I'm wondering, where do I rank this dude? Because he was the third receiver taken off the board in most fantasy drafts. So now he's wide receiver 13, coming off a week in which he was wide receiver 41 with 10 targets and a touchdown. He was wide receiver 41. So now clearly I'm not gonna rank him that low, but
come on, put your money where your mouth is.
But I'm a little shaky where I'm gonna have him this week. Right now I have him at wide receiver 9 because I just can't be too disrespectful to that great talent.
Kyle, what's your? I'm keeping Jamar Chase as a wide receiver 2, by the way, this week. I'm keeping Kupp, Chase, and Jefferson tiered as the top 3 for now, and Diggs, I feel like, has been running so hot, but Gabe, I think, is going to be a lot more involved this week. Not really sure what's going on with Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, so on and so forth. So I'm keeping the Chase faith for this week. Break the tie. Are you giving him a little drop, or are you keeping the faith?
I think I'll be closer to you. I'm pretty sure I'm going to flip Diggs over him, but I think I will still keep him just in that top 4. I think as soon as we saw Diggs come out and rebound in week 1, I was like, yeah, he's the Diggs he's always been. Last year was kind of a fluky year for him. So I'm comfortable putting him as he should have been going exactly in the same spot Kupp, Chase, and Jefferson were. Kupp is number 1. I don't think it's that close. Any of the rest
he had a
of
bad
the 3,
game, Kyle. I don't know if you heard.
He might not have seen his rushing touchdown. No,
I forgot he had a rushing touchdown.
That's all right. He only got 14 points.
I can't believe they let him score on that.
But yeah, I needed a little more in a few leagues than 14 points. So that didn't feel great. But did save the day with the rushing touchdown. He's
washed.
Yeah, he might be washed, man. I don't know. We'll have to. I'm not willing to say it yet, but it's close. We're about a game away. I think I'll have Diggs at 3 and Chase at 4. But
oh wow,
Lawrence makes really strong points about just the fact that T. Higgins in the past 2 weeks has been the number 1 receiver. And I don't think it's because Higgins is clearly the number 1, but I also think it's because Chase is also not clearly the 1. They just have 2 number 1s, and in any given week, it could go back and forth. And that's something you have never had to worry about with even, I love Gabe. I'm not worried about it with Diggs, though. I'm not worried about it with Kupp. I'm not worried about it with Jefferson, despite, a down week or 2. I'm still not worried about it. Whereas it's a legit coin flip as to who leads the team in targets, catches every receiving stat every week for the Bengals.
Yeah.
Kyle, you wanted to talk. Well, we both floated a name that I feel like is almost impossible to rank right now. And he plays for a football team that is real and exists. It's called the Washington Commanders, the real NFL team.
Oh, NFL team. I assume they were a football team, but there's a lot of minor league type of situations, arenas, fields and whatnot. So I figured they were one of those leagues. Turns out, formerly known as the football team. Frankly, I wish they would have stuck with that.
I do
it is
too.
A much cooler name.
It was the correct play.
I'm with y'all on that one.
It was by far the play, and they choked. What a surprise!
So Terry McLaurin, we saw last week he got over 100 yards, which is kind of the volatility we should come to expect from him, right? Where he goes out 1 week and maybe he saves it with a touchdown, but it's 20 yards. And the next week, it doesn't take much for him to get over 100 because he's clearly the team's field stretcher. Curtis Samuel, despite leading the team in targets, has a sub-5 ADOT. He is just, I don't want to say a gimmick player, but he's a slot short guy that they want to get.
He's a gimmick player. Fine, yeah.
He's a good gimmick, though. He's a good, gimmick doesn't have to be a bad thing, right? He just has a very specific role that's not the most common in the NFL. For a player to be leading his team in targets with the 5 ADOT, that's just not typical. He's doing well in it. But to me, I want the guy who maybe he gets a few less targets over the course of the season. It's not like he's getting blown away by Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, but I want the guy who maybe gets a few less targets, but gets 10, 15 air yards on each one of those targets. Because I think that's the upside we should generally be chasing. And to me, I also want to be chasing the sort of prior of Terry McLaurin having just years being the dominant alpha in Washington, whereas Curtis Samuel was, and frankly, he was the more of a gimmick when he was playing under Ron Rivera back in their days in Carolina. He didn't even have his biggest breakout season as a receiver until the year Rivera left. So to me, I think this will slowly normalize to Terry McLaurin being the number one. Probably not like he used to be, though, because he has far better competition. That's no doubt. You can't contest that.
Where do you have him ranked for this week, by the way?
Yeah, well, as someone who isn't going to do my ranks for about 24
okay,
hours.
That's fine. I'll tell you where I have him ranked.
I think it's going to be like mid-20s.
I've got him as the wide receiver 31 right now.
I'll be a little higher than you.
Who, Terry?
Terry, for a variety of reasons. It's because he has been percolating. Like he had eight targets in week 2, 9 in week 3. Finally, it's the 100-yard game. It does seem like he's trending in the right direction. Clearly, like you said, the field stretcher. But now we have Carson Wentz trying to deal with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. Hopefully, DeMarcus Lawrence is healthy. Trayvon Diggs maybe to line up.
No, Trayvon Diggs is perfect. Trayvon Diggs is the corner you want on.
Well, he's the gambler,
but he's gonna pick off Carson Wentz twice. They're gonna get in a big hole, and then he's gonna get burned by Terry McLaurin in the fourth quarter when the game's been salted away for about 20 minutes.
I think Carson Wentz is a perfect Trayvon Diggs one because I think he'll be able to jump the routes and won't have to worry about Carson Wentz hitting him over the top. And it just seems like a very bad matchup for Carson Wentz and Terry McLaurin, and a very, very good week to get Curtis Samuel 10 targets. And so I've got Curtis Samuel with a really narrow rankings advantage in Terry McLaurin. And yeah, I have Terry McLaurin ranked a lot lower than I ever want to have a player as good as Terry McLaurin ranked. But it just, after seeing what they did to Danny Jones, our boy Danny, on Monday night, Micah Parsons might remove Carson Wentz's spleen this week. I'm just really worried about it.
I got both Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin in the latter part of the 20s as far as receivers, but for Curtis Samuel to see 11, 9, and then 10 targets, that's real. Like
you take notice.
Do you have real? Lawrence, do you have Samuel over Terry?
I did last week. Now, Terry McLaurin obviously ended up having the hundo, but again, Curtis Samuel led the team in targets.
Easily.
What separated in the first 2 weeks though is that Curtis Samuel scored in the first 2 weeks. He didn't in week 3. The way this is going and the way that the Commanders run their offense, and Carson Wentz, just wow, Carson Wentz, like he all over the place. Like
he was back in his bag last week.
Yeah, the good thing is that don't affect our receivers. What he does, as long as he get them the ball, and he is. Terry McLaurin is, I could, he could, get back to his, number one role. I actually don't ever think that left, but Curtis Samuel is just like the clear number 2. I don't want to call it a 1A, 1B, but he's a strong number 2 in that offense. And he's not just going to go and be like, it's not going to normalize to getting 5 and 6 targets. I just can't see that after 3 consecutive weeks of him seeing this high volume. Like, they need Curtis Samuel in this offense. That's clear. Terry McLaurin, this week I won't rank Curtis Samuel above Terry McLaurin, probably because of the reasons y'all just named. Trayvon Diggs will probably, he might do well on him. He'll lock him up, get a pick or 2. And then he'll give up that deep ball to Terry McLaurin because that's what he do. And then Curtis Samuel get his 9 catches for 65 yards, and whether or not he gets a touchdown will determine whether or not it paid off for us people who started him in the flex.
Yeah, I do think Terry McLaurin will normalize to being the top-ranked Commanders receiver in fantasy. But yeah, I just don't think it's going to be this week. I think running for his life, Carson Wentz is going to have a bigger Curtis Samuel commitment than ever. I wanted to ask you guys about the Jets receivers, where it was getting less confusing, where just Garrett Wilson is becoming the guy, but now Zach Wilson is almost certainly coming back for week 4. And I feel like I don't know what to do again. And Kyle, are we ranking Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore higher with Zach Wilson coming back? And is there any chance these attempts stick? There's no way they're going to have Zach Wilson throwing 45, 50 passes a game, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because that is You would think that's what they'll be forced to do, just given the fact that they should probably lose most of their games from here on out. But I think it would be more of a philosophical approach that you just don't want your quarterback who's been beat up both physically and in terms of his lack of success mentally throughout his short career. You just don't want him having to drop back 55 times in a game. So it should be the correct answer that when you're, losing to the Bengals, you're down early, you have to throw a lot. But if that situation comes up with Zach Wilson, I would think they probably don't want him doing as much. He does stylistically have the type of fit that would also want to be throwing like downfield to receivers, to the tight ends, not to the running backs. So that would hopefully help, the Garrett Wilson and the Elijah Moore arguments. We saw last year, anytime he was in the lineup, it was not good for Elijah Moore. So I think I'll be taking Garrett Wilson. They tied in targets last week. Neither did, I don't think either even top 10 fantasy points PPR, but actually Garrett Wilson did. He got 12. So I think I'll have Garrett Wilson ahead of him now, but once Zach Wilson is back in the lineup officially, I'll be ranking them both lower than I did with Joe Flacco, unfortunately. It's sad, but it's where we are.
I think where I'm at is I'm lowering Garrett Wilson this week. I'm keeping him ahead of Elijah Moore, but I'm actually raising Elijah Moore based on where I had him. Just kind of anticipating. Garrett Wilson's been too good where a quarterback change just can't scare you off him completely. But I do think we might see a steadier target share for Elijah Moore over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So keeping Garrett Wilson ranked higher just in like the spiked week and potential, and this is overall play so far. So I've had to lower him, but I do think I kicked Elijah Moore up just a little bit just because I think Zach Wilson, as he's getting reacclimated to the offense, is going to be kind of funneling almost in a different type of players, but almost in a Curtis Samuel type way. Where he's like his security blanket, just getting the ball to Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I'm not as confused on I'm keeping Garrett Wilson ahead of Elijah Moore.
Good, thank God.
Like easily. I can't undo what I saw so far from Garrett Wilson. But then you know what Elijah Moore did last season started to creep into your mind a little bit. But then again, a lot of that was with Joe Flacco. They could just solve all our problems.
Everyone but Zach Wilson. It was unreal. Mike White comes in, balls out. Josh Johnson comes in, goes nuts.
They could just save a lot of our problems and questions by just leaving Joe Flacco
they could.
in the game. What they going to do? They ain't winning nothing. Give us what we want.
Give us Jolton Joe.
I want that 52 pass Joe Flacco every week. Give it to me every week. Because if I knew that's what I was getting, I'll put Garrett Wilson in my flex every week. And then, eventually Elijah Moore would kick up. 10 targets. He ain't do nothing with him this week. But, come on, man. Let's just do us all a favor. Robert Saleh. Stick with Joe Flacco, baby. Hey, Robert Saleh should not forget about the comeback that Joe Flacco engineered just the week before. Do it for the fantasy folks, man.
Yeah, do the right thing. And never in my life did I think anything would make me want to watch Joe Flacco, but that was until Zach Wilson came around. Or Zach, you could just take a step forward. That would be huge.
That too. I ain't gonna be mad at that.
We're going to end the show here, Lawrence, by hitting tight end. And you talking about a guy that, I feeling very confused with. There's Mr. Darren Waller. And it's kind of like this in chaos Raiders offense. What are we doing with Darren Waller for week 4?
Well, it's been up and down for him. He had the good week 2, fell off the week 4 because, it was Matt Holland's birthday party. So he came out the woodwork. I got it now that George Kittle is back in the fold with Jimmy G, and we love that combo. I would it's tough because Darren Waller at his peak is top 3 upside at the position, which in that tight end, that's all we really care about is the top 3, 4, maybe 5 tight ends, and the rest of it just ain't about nothing. Tight end just in general is confusing to rank. Now you have an elite one who kind of tailed off, and the Raiders are 0-3 and everything's not going right for him. But just out of the respect of knowing that he's a good player and what he could do, you got to keep him in the top 6 or 7 for the week. It's making it confusing for me right now personally, so confusing that I don't even have him ranked yet.
Kyle, yeah, I don't know. I feel this way about Darren. I feel this way about every tight end right now.
Yeah, tight end.
Yeah, well, that's the problem is he shouldn't be one of the tight ends where I feel this way about. Like you don't look at Mark Andrews and go, I feel bad about tight end this week. It's once you have to rank the third player, the fourth player, you're like, oh, tight end sucks. But he should be the type player that gives you a sort of reprieve from that. And instead, he's like 13th in target share. They're using him farther downfield than is typical, which means he does have some upside, at least on a per target basis, that we haven't quite seen before, especially over a sample of multiple games. But like, it's at the point where like Zach Ertz is getting so much work that in a PPR league, I still think I'm taking Waller over him. But the fact that it's a conversation means we are in a classic down bad situation. Like if we saw, I mean, the total for David Njoku in the Browns game is so high, and we finally saw David Njoku do the thing where he gets a lot of targets, is an unattackable grown A man. If he does that again this week, he could easily outscore Darren Waller. So he's close to being in the volume or efficiency hype-based tight end like second tier. I think I might kick him out of the first tier this week.
Oh man, yeah.
Foster Moreau. There you go.
Oh no. By the way, Lawrence, I was happy for you when David Njoku. I knew you had been one keeping the Njoku faith, and I was starting to get really like, basically tweet like, yeah, he's bad.
Hey, I actually got that game. Then I looked at the over under. I got David Njoku as tight end 7 this week.
Let's go.
Let's go, folks. Yeah, 49.5. I don't know. It's apparently steaming upward. It might get over 50. So this show just went over 50, which means it's time for it to end. The over under was at 49.5 minutes. We're at 51 minutes. So we hope you took the over. We hope you're cashing out. We really glad you listened. Any final thoughts, guys? Kyle and Lawrence. What do we have coming up on the site for you guys this week? How about that?
By the time you listen to this, 32 stats will have dropped. I think I was literally working on this while we were doing the show, to be honest. So that'll be, hey, I'm doing research. It is also certainly applicable to the show. I'm sure I mentioned some stat I found. All right, I'm fired. That's fine. I don't have anything coming up because I just got fired, guys. Now 32 stats, and then just check out the Thursday preview show. Those are the big ones up until the end of the week for DFS.
For sure. Make sure if you're watching this, continue to watch this show. I also got a stock up, stock down on players coming out on Monday. That came out yesterday, and then Wednesday optimal flex plays. Last week, Damien Pierce was in it. Garrett Wilson again at 12 points, but whatever. So yeah, we got more hits than misses there. So check that out.
Check it all out. Yeah, check out the show. Preview show Thursday. Got the rankings coming out. You guys have your rankings going up in the season pass. So for Lawrence, for Kyle, I'm Pat. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you later this week.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.